Hello, traders, and happy Monday. It's 8:01 a.m. Chicago time on the 10th of August, 2020. This is episode number 1815. Thanks for joining me. Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss. It is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. This morning, we've climbed a little bit higher than we were on Friday, and looks like risk on sentiment. Of course, part of that is the result of an executive order by uh, the president of the U.S. To force a continuation of the unemployment benefits, reduced or offering about 66% of what was there, $400 versus $600, while the legislative branch figures it out. So crude oil is leading the pack up 55 cents, 1.33%. Gold is continuing its climb, $2,042.30, up $14.30, or 0.71%. Euro stocks up 16 points. The Russell is strong this morning, up 7 points, 0.45. The Dow's up 101. The DAX is up 45.5 points, or 0.36. But interestingly, the treasuries are also up. The Bund is up 40 ticks. The 10-year note is up 4 big ticks, and the bonds are up 5 ticks. The U.S. dollar is also up 7.5 ticks. So it's just allocation to everything this morning. We did push into and above the 3350, the mid-century figure in the ES, put a point of control on top of it, and we are trading mainly in the upper distribution of Friday, holding Friday's point of control. So I'll go over that in a minute, but it looks like a continuation of what is a continuing bull market. In terms of the calendar, just to spend a couple minutes here, today there isn't much here. Tomorrow we do get the British claimant count at 2 a.m. Eastern, and the zoo economic sentiment out of Germany at 5 a.m. Eastern. Wednesday we have crude oil, of course, but in the morning, balanced trade out of Great Britain, GDP growth also out of Great Britain. We get core inflation out of the U.S. And the inflation rate. And then nothing on Thursday. We still have to pay attention to initial claims, but on Friday we get the GDP growth rate and retail sales in the U.S. So pretty light week this week today. Fed's Evans speaks at 4 p.m. right at the cash close, and we get the JOLTS jobs openings number at 10 a.m. or a half hour after the open. So let's move swiftly into, and as far as earnings, Occidental Petroleum after the close, but there's not much to talk about here in terms of earnings releases. Let's dive right into the review. On Friday, I talked about, hey, I could sit here and draw these scenarios, but really what we should be paying attention to are the key areas that are likely to be tested. I highlighted the 45, 51, and 54, 51 to 54 area. And then beneath us, we did hold we were holding the 33.23 area. There's a single print and a low volume node right here at 26. Important to watch. And then beneath there, 15. That's what was important. That's what was important coming into the session. Let me change the color on my pen here. And so here's what actually happened. This is the Renko chart. Let's remove these. Here's what actually happened. We had an open auction in range right in the low volume node, right in here. From Thursday, we basically were opening and trading right in that thin area, this rally area from Thursday, and we held the low, pushed into 40, right into the high volume node. We held the high volume node for much of the session and then slipped down below later in the session, put in a weak low at the low of the session at 22 and a quarter. That's a double bottom on two 30-minute bars, and finished at the high. So we had an extension of the initial balance, an extension down of the initial balance later to become neutral, hung out in the middle, which looked like a neutral normal, and then we ended up finishing near the highs. And really, if you look at early on, remember Friday's highs right here, 45.50. Early on, the market had a really hard time holding the push against the prior day's high. And this resulted in basically late longs getting flushed out, and then creating this weak low before it consolidated. And of course, like it's been doing, it pushed at the end. We did end up squeezing above the prior day's high, but we ended up closing just below it. So all in all, neutral extreme up day. So we expect the market to continue to waddle its way higher into the 50 and squeeze into higher prices as you're seeing here. Really not much more than that to talk about. We did have good volume, 1.26 million contracts, and it held its one time framing. So when we look at what it's done for the day, we have weekly one time framing up, monthly one time framing up, and daily one time framing up. We tested it on Thursday. We kind of chopped it up on Thursday and ended that one time framing up on the daily, and then we resumed it on Friday. The bull market is still relatively strong overall, and it's not so it's one of those things you got to keep in mind that you got to chill on the short side on structured shorts. The targets for shorts need to be pretty tight. This is the 30-minute version of my full session. The blue profile is day only. The orange profile is full session. And we could see that in the overnight session, the volume is relatively light. Prior session, 312K really. Well, hang on a minute. Yeah, okay, so I changed this. Let me just look at this for a second. Yep, I changed this to actually be, so I was wrong. I changed this. This used to be full session, but it's the overnight session only for now. And I'm actually going to change the setting on there to overlay so that I can flip between full session and overnight session. By the way, Convergent members, I'll be releasing these new definitions this week. I'm still tweaking some things out. But here's the Globex session. Here's the RTH session. The dark shaded area is RTH, blue profile, as I said. And you could see Friday tested the overnight session and put in a weak low and squeezed higher. And then what we have today is we pull back to the prior to Friday's point of control to the tick, and then basically just walk ourselves up this channel. Can't draw today. Up this channel throughout the overnight session until the European Open, which is right here. And then since then, it's been pretty choppy. The profile overnight's fairly balanced. The value area is relatively tight. We're staying above the full session mid, but have attacked or tackled the full session VWAP again and again. But we are higher overall, and it's looking bullish with the volume being relatively low, 180,000 contracts, relatively low volume. Of course, Friday had a major release, and so we get a lot of extra volume here, but volume's been hovering around 250,000 to 320,000 or so. And this today is looking kind of boring, actually. Coming into today's session, we can infer, based on the action so far, that it's likely to be a bit of a grind. That's what I'm expecting, but we'll see what the market does. Okay, so that's what the review is. Really, as long as we hold the one-time framing up, the expectation is the market is likely to continue to squeeze any shorts that come into the market, or those who have been holding short from the February drop and likely to cover at this point. Okay, Friday finished at the high with a positive delta. Uh, the action was really well supported, and again, expecting it to continue higher. It looks to me like the Nasdaq's having a hard time continuing to hold higher prices. It seems to have run its course a little bit and is probably due for a pullback. So this is a confusing looking chart. Maybe this is the classic composite chart, but what I did is I applied this weekly. It alternates colors on a weekly basis. So this kind of shows us on a weekly basis how the progression of the auction has gone. And so each day here represents, each bar here represents an RTH day. And normally it would show 5 days 5 days per week. And so each one of these each one of these boxes is a week, and the color changes for every month. Okay, so the dark here is what we did in June. The light gray background is what we have done in July, and the this dark background again is what we've done so far in August. And you could see that the progression on a month-to-month basis, the progression is higher lows, and on a weekly basis, the progression is higher lows throughout. So we continue to make these pushes higher and higher and higher. And of course, you know, the all-time high up here is 72, and we're very, very close to it. We're within a day's rotation of getting there. So that's where we stand. I mean, clearly, any push down gets an excess, has been getting an excess. So these bars show excesses below, and we're moving into a thin area. We're moving into the uppermost balance, and we're likely to squeeze higher and start having to use measured moves to see where the market is likely to go. We're seeing volatility kind of get sapped out of the market. We're seeing ranges go down. The volume's been okay. Friday's volume was climbing, but the range is pretty tight. Let me extend this to show what the profile of the daily ranges look like. So this is the profile of the daily ranges. We see that the volatility, the range is dropping, and the common range now is 29 points. That's what we would consider normal. Anything between 7 and 29 points. The most common is 13, and we are trading. We are basically well within that normal range on Friday. Let's take a look at what's expected for today. So for today, given where we are, this is the Monday after non-farm payroll. Tends to be kind of slow, although last month it wasn't. The tendency here, the expectation here is that we are likely to open up given that we are in balance overnight, we are likely to open in a choppy open auction. I'm looking for some reversion back into Friday's range, into Friday's high. I'm looking for a push as far down as 41-ish before we get our push higher, and I'm looking for it to squeeze this 35.55 before settling down. I'm not expecting a lot of range today. I'm not expecting a lot of direction today. It is not common for the ES to go into a trend the Monday after non-farm payrolls, and so I'm expecting it to be somewhat slow. So what happened? Okay, let's do that again. So open, chop, pull back, probably to the 41 area, consolidate, impulse up. So I'm looking for a push higher like we've consistently seen, and then squeeze into the 55.50 and come back in and close somewhere in the upper bound of the range. That's what I'm expecting for today as the main trade idea. The secondary is an open auction that just squeezes all the way up, pushes into the high of 55.50, the overnight high of 55.50. There's not much to contain this thing really, but I'm looking for it to just continue to consolidate into the overnight range and hold steady here. It could trend up, but to be honest with you, there's a lot of drag on the Fangman stocks. Currently, there's a lot of drag on the Nasdaq. I am expecting a pretty relatively choppy area or relatively choppy trade. I'm expecting it to test the value high and kind of minor low volume node in the 41 area on from Friday. The point of control is tested at 33.35. It could push down. The scenario two could push down into and below 33.35, but going with the overall trend, I'm expecting it to kind of squeeze the high. The overnight session has held the higher prices pretty well after testing on the open, and I'm expecting that to hold steady for today. Okay, there's not much more I can tell you. I was going to do a wisdom session today, but I'm going to let you go and keep this one short. Good luck, and I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Take care.